My name is Tony Parrott, Executive Director at the Metropolitan Sewer District, and we want to thank you all for coming out for this occasion where we are celebrating another milestone in our consent decree, which involves a lot of projects that are designed to reduce combined sewer overflows into our rivers and streams throughout Jefferson County. We are here at the Portland Combined Sewer Overflow Basin, which happens to be the last of 10 combined sewer overflow basins that we have built as a part of the consent decree. And all of these basins collectively can hold about 195 million gallons of stormwater and wastewater so that we can pump it back into the system once a rain event is completed. Additionally, as you all know, we're working on the Waterway Protection Tunnel, which is the last piece of our underground storage effort as a part of the consent decree. The tunnel will provide an additional 55 million gallons of storage when that is complete. So all of these projects combine to make our waterways safer, and the goal is once these projects are completed, we will be able to eliminate approximately 7 billion gallons of overflow into local rivers and streams on an annual basis. The Portland Combined Sewer Basin sits under where you are standing right now. It is strategically located so that we can capture points that overflow into the Ohio River. And this one is nestled up between our flood protection system and Interstate 64. We determined that that would be the best use of this property. And it is a piece of infrastructure that is designed to enhance our system. It is largely invisible to the public, and that is purposeful. But we do have only the control building, which is above ground, and of course a generator to support it in the event of a power outage. All of the work that we are doing with the consent decree is our commitment to make the city in which we live a better place. And so we wanted to do that because of the Lannon Memorial Park. As a part of this project, what used to be a gravel storage lot is now a grassy lawn. It may need a little bit of rain before everything kind of comes through, but it's intended to be a grassy lawn. There's a lot of folks that use the bike path that is close to this park, and so we're also designed in a rain garden featuring native plants that will become a pollinator area for this project. We relocated the roadway as a part of the construction, and because of the footprint of the basin, that is an improvement that is making it sort of a traffic deterrent to slow people down and provide a more scenic experience here at Lannon Park. A sidewalk has been added so residents can have a safe path from the Northwestern Parkway into the park. And so we want to thank the neighborhood and the neighbors that have been supportive during the construction and very patient during construction. We also want to recognize Louisville Metro Parks that has been working with us, Jason Canuel, who contributed ideas and support in the planning of this project. We'd like to thank Councilmember Donna Purvis, who was unable to join us, but her support during the project, and also Councilmember Barbara Sexton-Smith, who's been supporting our efforts to make this community a better place to work. Of course, our own mayor, who recognized that what MSD, we do more than just provide wastewater treatment, stormwater, and flood protection. We do things, and he understands that the investments that we make in our infrastructure is an investment, is not only for the health and safety of the public, but also economic health of the area. This project employed 171 local workers. What that means is we had 88% local labor utilization on this project. It's a $55 million project, and we had $5.6 million spent on minority-owned firms and $2.1 million spent on women-owned firms. So it is an economic opportunity for companies as well. So we're here today to cut the ribbon And first, I want to introduce our mayor and thank him for the leadership as a part of this project.
Thank you, Tony. And good morning to everybody for coming out here on this kind of unusual heat wave we're having in our city. Seems to be a lot of unusual weather these days, so we just need to adapt to that the best we can. And I think this retention basin is just another example of that. I think, you know, for me, there's a lot of highlights today, but I want to say a big thank you and congratulations to the entire MSD team, our contracting partners, for the completion of the final retention basin. 10 retention basins have been quietly engineered, developed, contracted, and completed in our community by MSD. I think just doing a really great job going about doing the work that they've done quietly and effectively. So I want to say thank you to the entire MSD team, Tony, to you and you guys. You know, and it's kind of symbolic of the work that MSD does. I mean, most of the work of MSD is underground. People don't see it, and people just take it for granted that it's going to be there and operating properly, much like they do most levels of government as well. But when things happen is when they get the attention, right? When a road caves in, when we expose infrastructure that's 100 or 150 years old, and people ask the question, what are we going to do about this? While our initial consent decree was a little bit under $1 billion or so, what we know is the amount of work that we have left to do in our community with MSD is in the neighborhood of $3 billion or $4 billion. And executing that work is critical to keeping our environment healthy, our drinking water clean, and being an attractive place for businesses to stay and relocate to as well. So we're far from done in this city in terms of making sure that we've got the proper infrastructure that we need to make sure that we've got the type of environment and safe water conditions that we need. I am fully confident that MSD can continue to execute on that vision. It will be up to the citizens of Louisville and to the Metro Council to make decisions on how we're going to proceed forward with these next levels of investment. And it's always smarter to do the investment before there's a huge problem than after there's a huge problem. We see that obviously with some of our street cave-ins where it's just more expensive to deal with it after the fact. So I encourage the council to continue deliberating on this issue. I want to thank Councilwoman Sexton Smith for her leadership in this issue. She sees this through an environmental lens and through a business lens as well. And so I just hope the community will also give the input to their council members to say this is the kind of work that we need to continue to do for our community. And if we don't do that, then what we'll be looking at is another federal consent decree in some fashion or another. This has been a great project in terms of partnership. You have seen in so many of these projects where we've taken assets, land that has been owned by the community, by our citizens, that has just kind of been sitting there, and rather than buy new property and expend our citizens' money, we use publicly owned property that in this case was a pretty sorry-looking piece of property and turning it into a nice park over here. And so our citizens get a kind of a double bang for their buck, using existing community-owned assets to put a wonderful piece of infrastructure underneath here while we improve the asset that's remaining after that. And so I think that's what people expect and deserve from their government, and it leads to a much better Lanham Park as well. So I want to thank the citizens of Portland for their patience throughout this and everybody coming together to make this project fantastic. I'm looking forward to the completion of the Waterway Protection Tunnel as well. Tony talked about the scale and scope of that tunnel. It's one of the great engineering projects that's going on in the United States of America, quietly underneath of our city right now, but that will be a real red letter day when that's complete. And I hope when that's complete then too, we have another opportunity to expand a wonderful public asset and public park for our community if we can find the funding for it. Everybody knows about our budget woes, but we want to extend Waterfront Park westward, and of course where the entry support for the tunnel is on what could be Waterfront Park Phase 4 as well. So when that's all done, I hope somehow the budget gods and the council gods come together somehow to make sure that we're making this type of continued investment in our city. But the main message today is just great job to MSD here on this symbolic day here as we close our final and 10th retention basin. So great job, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor Fisher. And as the mayor mentioned, you know, Metro Council, a lot of folks have been involved in the discussion about what we need to do with all of our assets and the critical assets. And the one thing that we do know, the risks are getting bigger, and the more we defer, the higher the costs get in the future. And so we've always appreciated the support that we've gotten from Council Member Sexton Smith. And so I'd like to ask her to make some comments.
All right, thanks, John. You know, today really is a great day, and it's already been mentioned a few times, the important role that the Louisville Metro Council has been playing and will continue to play as we work together to find the funding and put together financial structures to make sure that we have a safe and healthy community. So I want to applaud Tony Parrott, Brian Bingham, Angela, and everybody else on the MSD team and all of your contractors for what a great job that you've been doing. I'm going to stand with you and before you and beside you today as Metro Council, and I can guarantee one thing. I'm only one of 26 votes, but I have been a sponsor and will continue to sponsor and help lead the discussion of a rate increase when the time is necessary to give the MSD Board of Directors the authority to do what we need them to do. Not do what they need to do what we need them to do, and that is to make sure that our community can continue to flow. Mayor Fisher, you've heard me say it before, every time we flush one of those toilets, no matter where you are, we close the lid, we don't think a thing about it, except MSD's thinking about it, and we want to make sure that we can continue to do that. It's also been mentioned that we've had 10 of these combined sewer overflow basins. This is the 10th one. And folks ask me all the time, where are these basins? I haven't seen one. That's part of the great story, because you have heard about them. Go back with me just a couple of years. You remember one of the basins was going to be built above ground in Smoketown. MSD stood up and listened to all the neighbors, all the businesses and the residents in the area, and they were asked to please consider a new design that would put that basin underground. And they did that. That is a symbolic single manifestation of the fact that our MSD does listen, does engage in the community, and does give us what we want if we all agree to come to the table, work together, and not just talk at each other and do, as my husband says, send smoke signals in a high wind. Nobody gets anything accomplished when you do that. So, Tony, thank you so much for doing that in the Smoketown area. The Ohio River Tunnel, the wastewater tunnel. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's an engineering and operational marvel right here in Jefferson County, right on the banks of the Ohio River. That would have been 3 or 4 combined sewer overflow basins, if I understand correctly, but they figured out a way on how to put that tunnel underground. It's going to run about 4 miles. So if you're trying to figure out where in the heck the Bumblebee is, the Bumblebee is what I think is one of the world's largest boreheads that got named the Bumblebee after our very own native son, Cassius Clay, who went on to become Muhammad Ali, because it's down there doing what Mayor Fisher talks about all the time. It's the road work, sort of, Mayor, but it's underground. And the Bumblebee is just boring its way 4 miles. When we're working, when we're eating, when we're sleeping, MSD is out there doing the job that needs to be done. So we appreciate that. It's my understanding that about 98% of our wastewater will be able to be held in these basins in that tunnel and get treated before it flows out into the Ohio River. So I think it's important, as we're getting ready to bring closure here over the next couple of years, by 2024, when we fulfill the unfunded federal consent decree. I like to mention that, Mark, because it was a federal mandate, these consent decrees across America, that were unfunded. And the cities and municipalities were left holding the bag to figure out how to pay for that. MSD and its board has figured out how to do that with our help. So now we're going to look forward to moving into critical repair and reinvestment plan. So I'm going to ask everybody, please visit MSD's website, take a look at the critical repair and reinvestment plan, because it is a look forward on how do we work together, provide the funding to minimize the challenges and potential disasters that any city our age and our size could find themselves facing. It's not a fear tactic, it's just a simple reality. You got a 150-year-old system in many parts of our community. You're going to need to take care of that. You're going to need to repair that. We have 3 of those repairs going on in downtown Louisville right now. My office is getting calls and messages from folks wanting to know, when are we going to get the roadways back open? When it's safe and when MSD says it's okay to do so. So I applaud you all once again for that. So Mayor Fisher, Tony Parrott, thank you for letting me be with you today. I've stood with you before. I stand with you again in support of the work MSD does. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. And also want to recognize Jacob Mathis and our project manager, and Greg Powell, our construction manager, and also our design engineers and our contractors. Again, everybody that was involved with this project and making it successful, getting it done on time and on schedule. So we are here now to cut the ribbon, and so we would like to ask some of those folks to come up and join us for a ribbon cutting.
Don't cut it, Jim. Come up there, everybody look forward and smile. Cut. 3, 2,